I'm going to interview my dad for this project. He is 48, and he has worked at the Capitol for 26 years. He was a retired tour guide now, and he was born in Texas, lived in Hawaii most of his life, and then moved to D.C. in 1987. You're Jonathan Hanley, is that correct?
Yep, I'm John Henley.
So you've worked at the Capitol for a long time?
Yes, I was a tour guide at the Capitol for the better part of 26 years and had been a doorkeeper in the United States Senate for a little while.
Why have there been so many architects of the Capitol?
The Capitol building, has been added to many times through its history. As the nations continued to grow, the Capitol had to grow along with it. So it all begins in 1793. George Washington personally placed the cornerstone, September 18th, 1793, and the architect at the time was a man by the name of Dr. William Thornton. He was the first architect. Right away, he was relieved of his duties. He was only an architect by hobby and actually couldn't see the construction through. So they would hire another fellow by the name of Benjamin Henry Latrobe. He was professionally trained in architecture and engineering, and he really specialized in Greek Revival and some Roman architecture.
How did they choose the final design for the Capitol?
Well, the final design was chosen because there was a commission set up, and George Washington as well had some oversight in this, and the plans that first came in were terrible. None of them were any good. So with a late entry, Thomas Jefferson convinced George Washington it would be a good thing to take a look at the late entry. And again, that was Dr. Thornton's plan, and it was exactly what they were looking for. Washington felt strongly he wanted something that would reflect durability, and so he didn't want a brick structure, no man-made materials. He didn't want wood. Would probably have to be rebuilt many times. And it reflected the most durable governments in the history of the world. The Greeks and the Romans, they built in stone and marble. So that's pretty much why they went with what they did.
How come I've never heard of any of the other architects of the Capitol?
Well, let's see. There have been 11, and after the first 4, the others kind of acted as superintendents, really overseeing what was already there, and when they were to make other additions and renovations, they would have the architect kind of as an overseer, hiring other architectural firms to actually carry things out. I should probably mention the first 4 architects since they are so important. Again, I had mentioned Dr. William Thornton and Benjamin Henry Latrobe. Those are the 2 individuals who built the first Senate and the House wing. And the British burned the Capitol, so they end up having to rebuild, and that's again Latrobe rebuilding. Then he retires, and a man by the name of Charles Bulfinch would come along, and he would finish the Capitol of the original plans, finally putting a dome on it. And he really redesigned the dome, and it took his name. It was called the Bulfinch Dome. Interestingly, he designed 3 domes, and he designed a small one, hoping that the members would look at that, members of Congress and the committee in charge of it, and say, oh, that's too small. And then he designed a dome that he felt was the perfect dome, and then he built one or designed one that was so large it looked ridiculous. But leave it to a bunch of men in a room to decide bigger is better. So anyway, they went with that extremely large dome that Bulfinch was really not in favor of. And but that's what they wanted, and that's what they went with. And in the end, it looked like an upside-down teacup that was made of copper, so it was green. And that dome lasted from 1824 into the late 1850s, around the time they had just built new wings for the House and Senate as we approached the Civil War. And that 4th architect, a fellow by the name of Thomas U. Walter, he would build those new wings in the 1850s, and ultimately the larger dome, the dome we know today, people around the world look to really as a symbol of freedom and democracy. And it's that dome that Thomas Walter designed that they all think of. It's topped off appropriately with a Statue of Freedom. Freedom's 19.5 feet tall, weighs 7 tons. Placed on the dome the same year Lincoln would actually sign the Emancipation Proclamation, the document that symbolically freed the Southern slaves during the Civil War. So really a nice way to kind of cap it all off. So, and again, the other architects that come along, architect Clark and Stewart and so on, they tended to get more active superintendents, and again, less familiar names.
Follow-up question, who is the current architect of the Capitol?
The current architect is a fellow by the name of Stephen Ayers, and when I retired, he was the architect and actually in charge of the guide service. The guide service had been from 1876 until 2008 was directly overseen by the House and the Senate Sergeant-Arms. And the architect sat on the board, but it was really run by the House and Senate until 2008 when all the responsibilities were shifted under the architect.
What was the reasoning behind the multiple designs of the Capitol, how it changed over time and all that?
Well, again, it really dealt with the space. They needed more space as time went by. And, as they added to the building, technology changed. They start off, they have a building that was built that was just stone walls, rooms where they'd bring in furniture and lamps and firewood and stuff. But by the time they started additions onto the building in the 1820s, you would begin to see things change. You start to bring in their gas lighting systems and stuff. When the new wings are built in the 1850s, again, technology moving along, indoor plumbing, and better gas lighting systems, and ultimately, you see other changes as we get to electricity, and they move toward electric lighting in the 1890s, and telephone systems, and since I've been there, they went from the original cables they were using and stuff for computers to fiber optics and all sorts of security enhancements. So it's pretty amazing, as the building is really adapted with changes in technology, and trying to take an old building and because it commands such respect, and the members when they go to work there, hopefully it makes them really think about what they're doing there and how important it is, and hopefully they're in awe with the building, and those are some of the things they consider, and just got to keep the old thing ticking like a precision clock.
When was the last renovation completed on the Capitol?
The last addition, actually, to the Capitol was the Visitor Center, and it was finished in 2008. And that Visitor Center almost doubled the floor space within the Capitol building. They talked about a Visitor Center for over 20 years. Just a little before 9/11, they initiated construction there, and it took about, it's close to 8 years of construction, and $650 million later, we got a visitor center with facilities to accommodate the tourists. You used to have to wait out in the line 3 hours just to get in, and they had no accommodations in there. Now we got restaurants, some movie theaters for continuing education, some museum space, and they come into the building much more informed than they used to. So that's the newest addition. It's wonderful.
Goodbye. Thank you very much for your time. I know this took a lot out of your busy schedule.
Yeah, busy schedule. I'm retired, man. Nothing to worry about, buddy. But anyway, here you have it. Beautiful dome, man. Love it. And hopefully everybody in the country can appreciate it as much as I have over the years. Take care.